after me. Drowning in what feels just like an ocean.
Hi, this is Barack L from Femigod. I'm here with Susie Colles, author of The Art of Ayurvedic Nutrition. How are you doing today, Susie?
Very well, thank you. Thanks
That's
for
good.
having me. Yeah,
Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it.
pleasure.
Do you think you could give us a little bit of information on your background and how you got to this part of your spiritual journey?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Australia and had a fairly, I guess, middle class upbringing, and was really interested in sports and stuff. And my first degree was sort of a phys ed degree. I was also really interested in nutrition and went on to study a master's in nutrition and dietetics, and then sort of worked in the area of clinical dietetics for around 10 years, I guess, in Australia and Great Britain. And then I sort of questions started coming up. I'd been working in health industry, but I really was starting to feel like the Western medical system was, well, often, I guess, causing more harm than good in a way, quite an aggressive system and not really treating the whole
Yes.
individual. And particularly from a nutritional perspective, I was wondering, what am I doing? I don't feel like I'm having an impact. And so then I went on and did a Ph.D, and I looked at, specifically, I was working with people who were struggling with their weight, and mostly those actually seeking surgery for their weight, and looking at dietary factors and psychological and behavioural factors before and after treatment. And really what happened, I mean, that was a wonderful experience, and learning research was great, but I sort of came out of that feeling even more confused. And then I went to Africa, and I worked in Swaziland, a little country between Mozambique and South Africa, in women's health development there. And that was a wonderful experience. And I think that was probably, in a way, the beginning of my spiritual journey, opening me up to new experiences, new ideas. I mean, I was always fond of travel, but to really work closely with another culture, so from that, and that's where I met my husband, actually, who's Indian. So then from there, we lived in Africa for a little while, in a couple of different countries, which was great. I love the continent. And then we came back to Australia, and I was doing some lecturing in dietetics and working with Aboriginal people in remote communities, which was another really enriching experience. But I guess it was, and all through this time, I have to say, I was practicing yoga, and I was slowly sort of working towards or becoming more in touch, I guess, with my more subtle nature, my spiritual nature, sort of moving more inward, I guess, rather than relying on the world to bring me happiness. And it was when I got to India about eight years ago that I started studying Ayurveda. So that's the traditional health system of India, the natural health system of India. And I also sort of deepened my yoga study and practice. And I think it's been through yoga and Ayurveda for me in particular that I have deepened my spiritual practice. And I also find India a deeply spiritual place. I mean, it's crazy, but the Hindu religion, because it has so many gods, and people are very, they're not sort of stuck in a single belief system. They're very open and less, I find, judgmental perhaps than Westerners in general. And so, yeah, it's a greater feeling of freedom, spiritual freedom, perhaps. And that's, been a big part, I think, of my development as well. Yeah. Does that sort
That's,
of...
yeah, no, that's great. That answers a lot. So you said you were kind of after you started your studies, you were put off by Western medicine. What would you say
Mm.
are the biggest downfalls of Western medicine, or what are some of the maybe common, the worst things that people may not know about Western medicine?
Um, yeah, I think so. It became increasingly evident to me that Western medicine basically, since we've had microscopes and test tubes and now all these machines that can look at increasingly smaller aspects of the body, it's what we're doing is taking a human being and reducing them down to cells, to you know, nutrients, to constituents that can't even be seen with the naked eye. And so in our mind, we sort of view ourselves not as a whole being, but as a symptom in the shoulder, or you know, the foot, or having a disease. Diabetes becomes our label, and our blood sugar reading becomes everything that tells us about ourselves, which is completely, you know, untrue. It's a very limiting, reductionist way of looking at ourselves and of treating health, which is actually a holistic way of being. There are so many aspects to health, of the individual, of societies, of the planet, the cosmos, you know, and we're all part of everything, that whole picture. So to start thinking of ourselves as a symptom, or a biochemical analysis, is so reductionist and limiting. So there was that aspect, and also Western medicine is so aggressive. It's not a
Yes.
health system. It's not a nurturing place, and where people are, the body is given a chance to heal. I mean, it's the body that heals. It's not a doctor. It's the intelligence, the wisdom of the body within the environment that it's in, that does the healing. I mean, just as one example that came up in my life recently, my husband's cousin died about a year or so ago now of cancer. And
I'm
we were
sorry
just
to hear
talking
that.
to a friend. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's in everyone's lives, really. But the day before she died, she was, you know, she was weak, but she was well. Then she had chemotherapy, and then, you know, she started bleeding internally, and then she died. I mean, all it seems often that Western medicine knows how to do is to be aggressive, to attack, you know, attack the cells, attack the body, attack the symptoms, when really that was what essentially probably ended her life. If she had been nurtured through, you know, rest and rejuvenating foods and oiling the body and nourishment, and, you know, a serene environment, and, you know, all of these things, I believe that she would, you know, still be probably alive today. So it's that, yeah, you know, the creams that we put on are full of chemicals, and it's, you know, we're relying on machinery to tell us how we are, who we are, and it just takes all of the responsibility, the you know, the ownership, I guess, and the sensitivity away from ourselves to truly know who we are and to make decisions based on how we feel, and you know, what our intuition is telling us, rather than relying on so-called experts.
Yes, no, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. For people that are coming from more of a traditional Western background and may not have experience with Ayurveda, what would you say the major differences are in the philosophies and, you know, how they go about treating patients, and what really attracted you to that system?
Yeah, so I mean, at heart, Ayurveda it's not a healing system; it's a health system. So it's supporting health in individuals rather than waiting for them to get sick and then trying to cure that illness. So it's a, as I said, it's a holistic system, really. It's a natural system. So it's using, I mean, the three main therapies of Ayurveda are diet. So it's always seen a very large role of food in health. And then the second is lifestyle. So really acknowledging that the behaviours that we are involved in every day and the environments that we live in are a very big part of our ongoing health and vitality. And then the third aspect is herbs, so herbal therapies. So it's always been very closely aligned with the plant kingdom in particular, and using the herbs, and particularly choosing them because of the qualities they have and how those qualities can combine and I guess help to balance the qualities in ourselves and bring us back to balance. So yeah, they're the three main I guess healing arms. That's a very nutshell view of the healing. People may know Ayurveda from the massage as well. It's very fond of oils, and so there's a lot of herb infused oils that are used in massage, and panchakarma, which is a cleansing system basically. So rather than wait for the body to become unwell, Ayurveda wants to keep the body clean, keep it vital, keep it balanced, and stop people from becoming sick. And the three, probably the most distinct aspect of Ayurveda that people may have come across are the three dosha. Have you heard of the three dosha? Yeah. So the three dosha are Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, and what they represent are the. Okay, actually, let me take it back one step. I guess all of Ayurveda sees that the world fundamentally is made up of five primary elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So these are, rather than look at it as, the elemental table in Western science, or as pulling it apart into its minor constituents, Ayurveda is bigger picture. So these five great elements exist throughout the world, and really before Western science sort of took over a few hundred years ago, these five elements, if you look back, are really throughout all natural healing systems.
Yeah.
So these five elements make up the world. They make up the foods that we eat, and of course they make up the human body. When we're born, we're all born with just a slightly different combination of these five great elements within us. And that's, to do with our parents, to do with the environment when we were conceived, and, to do with a few other things. But when we're born, we've all got a slightly different combination of these five great elements. Obviously, one or two will be more dominant than the others, and that's what creates our dosha. So Vata dosha, for example, is the intelligent manager of air, excuse me, the intelligent manager of air and ether in the body. So these are the two more subtle elements. If you have a dominance of Vata, or you're born with the dominance of Vata, you tend to be a little slimmer. You're perhaps a little more airy and love change, into movement. These are very too mobile, or the air particularly is the most mobile of the elements. And there's a whole array of aspects to do with Vata. And I mean, so Pitta dosha is the fiery dosha, and that has a dominance of fire in its mix, fire and water, particularly because fire in the body needs to be carried in a liquid medium or it's going to burn the tissues. Sorry, excuse me, I'm just getting over a bit of a travel bug.
Oh, I can understand.
So Pitta is the hot dosha, and if you have a Pitta dominance, you tend to, be quite warm, rosy-cheeked. You'll feel the heat more than others, perhaps. These sorts of things. And then Kapha dosha is a dominance of earth and water. So these are the two heavier elements, cool elements. So if you are born with a dominance of earth and water, you tend to be a little heavier, put on weight a little more easily because these are more building elements. You might like to sit around and relax a little more than, for example, a Vata type, who, as I said, is quite more mobile and likes change. And so these elements very much influence the way the physical body, the elements in the dosha, the managers of the elements, very much influence the way our physical body expresses itself. They influence how our mind expresses itself. And because, for example, if you're a Pitta type with a high fire element, that tends to attract more fire, and we can become too hot. And this, Ayurveda would say, is a major cause of inflammation in the body and diseases of excess heat, acidity, infections all have a Pitta element. So from a dietary perspective, in order to help reduce the elements in us that are high, we choose foods and we choose activities with opposite qualities. So we'd choose cooling foods, we'd choose cooling activities, and in that way help to balance our system and keep the body healthy. Does that sort of
That
a
makes a lot of
coherent
sense.
overview? Okay.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's a great thing. Do you know, could you speak a little bit more? I know you said you were practicing yoga and doing all that when you got into this. How
Uh-huh.
can Ayurveda enhance your yoga practice? How can that
Okay, yeah.
continue to bring value to you?
Sure. I mean, well, yoga, Ayurveda, has no set, I guess, start date. I mean, but I would say it's well over 5,000 years old. Yoga is a little newer. I think it's sort of developed in this area or in India, where I am at the moment, around, say, 1,500 to 1,000 years ago. Yeah, around there. No, hang on, it's maybe a couple of over the last 2,000 years, let's say. But so yoga was definitely, so they were both sort of in the same area and have been, or geographical area, and have been used together as therapies for many, for hundreds, thousands of years. So yoga is an integral therapy of Ayurveda, and Ayurveda is really an integral therapy of yoga. Ayurveda is more about the physical body, keeping the physical body healthy, and yoga is more of a spiritual system, so really taking us into our spiritual nature. And when you look at yoga, I mean, a lot of us just think of the asanas, the postures, and that's a form of hatha yoga, which is one school of yoga, but there are many schools of yoga that use different strategies to bring us more into our spiritual nature and connect us with the universal divine or with our spiritual, nature, let's say. So Ayurveda, yeah, as I said, it's more, I guess, for the physical body. So by understanding your personal dosha, so what elements tend to be high in you, and also understanding where you are right now, because often we're born, well, okay, I'll use myself as an example, that's just easy. I was born as a Pitta Vata type, so you can have a dual dominance of dosha. You might not just be Pitta Vata or Kapha, but I'm Pitta Vata, so I have a higher Pitta and higher Vata in me. Actually, no, maybe that's a bit complex as an example, but let's just say, yeah, so you know what you're born with. Then throughout life, of course, we take on more qualities, we're doing stuff, and the body becomes imbalanced because it tends to take on qualities from, of course, the foods we eat, from the environment, and we become imbalanced. Often you take on more of the qualities that you were born with. So I'm Pitta Vata. I have, and this is true, have a Pitta and a Vata imbalance as well, because I've taken on too much fire, I've taken on too much air over various things. And actually a lot of that is part of the spiritual journey, because part of the, I guess, the creating the spiritual fire is quite a, and particularly through yoga, is quite a heating practice. And then the air elements in us as well, the Vayu, which is the Ayurveda and yoga see as the different currents of energy that make up our energy body. So we're a physical body, we're an energy body. I mean, essentially we think of ourselves as a physical being, but this is all just dense energy that's continually vibrating, and there is layers of energy beyond what I can just see physically as well. So that's all moving, and that is part of Vata dosha. Now I'm completely off the track. But I guess balancing the physical body through Ayurveda, through that natural healing system, understanding your dosha and understanding what your current imbalance is and working your way back to that dosha are all aspects of helping the physical body be in balance, which then supports the mental body, the mind, helping the mind to be calm, peaceful, not distorted by excess thoughts and emotions and beliefs, and then that is an ideal support for yoga practice, which, as I said, is really, I mean, Patanjali, who was the compiler, I guess, of the Yoga Sutras, which if you've looked into yoga, you've probably come across. So his primary description of yoga is to the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind. So it's really by calming the mind that we gain entry, in a way, or access, or become aware of our spiritual nature. While the mind is, reaching out there, looking to the outside world to bring in more distractions that we feel that are going to bring us happiness and fulfill us, and that we need to be, keeping up with what's going on, and what's the term, FOMO, is it?
Yes,
FOMO.
fear of missing out. Yes.
Yeah, that sort of stuff, and we're constantly externalizing our experience, and the mind is so busy with all of that and the judgments that we make. we can't really be in touch with our spiritual nature, because the spirit is our most subtle aspect, and we have to quieten the mind. We have to bring the senses from their external back into into an internal aspect of ourselves, and that's one of the big jobs of yoga. So yeah, Ayurveda can really help to balance, nurture the physical body and help us understand ourselves at a physical level, so we can make choices for ourselves of what suits us as individuals to eat, our daily practices, perhaps, you know, some herbal therapies, but keep it simple, keep it whole, keep it natural. And then from that balanced physical state, the mind, it's much easier to work with the mind and to calm the mind and to realize a more sort of spiritual aspect in life.
That makes a lot of
Is that
sense. I know,
yeah?
yes, I know
Okay.
that could definitely be, that's very beneficial. So when getting started with Ayurveda, is that the first thing that you would do, is find out your dosha?
Yeah, it's a great start. I mean, yeah. So you can certainly look at that as a good place to start. Can you hear me all right? Yeah?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. Yes, there's a lot of ways to do that. I think online there's a lot of charts that you can start with. In my book, I've got quite a comprehensive chart that I lead people through, just to really to say, however, that it's not that you're going to come up with a hard and fast answer either. It's sort of a good place to start learning, to start thinking, and most importantly, to start observing yourself. Oftentimes when I start asking people questions about, you know, their bowel movements, their tongue, what the coating is like, you know, what seasons, how seasons may affect them, this and that. People are like, oh, yeah, I've never really, you know, thought about that. And so there is so much that go on in our own lives that we really don't take much, I guess, interest in or have much awareness of. And all of these things are actually really important because they're helping us understand our own metabolism and look at the qualities of things that we take into ourselves, that we excrete from ourselves, for example, are really key aspects of understanding our dosha, what elements we have in us, what's high in us, how we can perhaps balance them. So understanding the dosha and understanding your current state of balance as well, so that our birth constitution, Ayurveda calls the prakriti or prakruti, and then our current state of balance is called the vikriti or vikruti, which means our imbalance. So it's sort of where we've moved from our birth state, which is our natural state of harmony, let's say, to where we are now, which is often a bit different. So we sort of, in the present moment, we want to move back, help to balance what's high in us and move back towards, or move into our natural balanced state. And then you're really just working with that constantly. And of course, for example, we live within continuing cycles, daily cycles, you know, night and day, where the elements are changing in the environment. Women have monthly cycles, of course, which are you know, something that goes on for many years and is, again, something really women need to be working with and taking notice of, and like premenstrual or menstrual issues are a big, I guess, sign of imbalance in the body. It's not normal to be tearing your hair out and you know, really for you know 1 or 2 weeks a month. That's not normal. And then also, of course, we live in seasonal cycles, so the seasons are changing, which, you know, the elements in our environment are changing. We need to be working with those. And of course, there's the life cycle. So children tend to be more kapha dominant, so more dominant in the water element in particular. They're sort of, you know, nice and plump and fresh. And then we move into sort of middle age. That's the pitta dominant stage of our lives where, you know, we're more, I guess, passionate, we're more driven, there's more fire in us, and we're, you know, I guess, getting out there and trying to make our mark on the world. And then in the later years, that's the vata dominant stage where we're, you know, we sort of dry out, we're lighter, we move more into, I guess, a more spiritual aspect often. And so even though you may understand your dosha and great, you're working with it, there's also, you know, every day is different. So it's really about just being becoming an observer of yourself, of the environment, and sort of, you know, being more receptive, more sensitive to what's going on naturally around you, rather than, you know, tapping into all of the external, you know, noise, let's say, that is just now everywhere.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I really like how Ayurveda looks at all aspects, and like you said, just not the
Yeah,
ailment, but it takes everything consideration over a period of time. Can you
exactly. Mm.
can you tell us a little bit more about your book, The Art of Ayurvedic Nutrition, and what you cover in there?
Yeah, okay. So I've got a copy here actually. I'll show you. Let's see.
Yeah, beautiful.
um, so yeah, I wrote that over, I guess, 4 or 5 years while I've been in India, and it sort of started, as I said, I was a dietitian and feeling a bit disgruntled with Western nutrition. And then when I came across Ayurveda, for me, it was really you know, it was not only a personal healing, but it was really, you know, at last I felt like I could work with food, work with nutrition in a holistic way that was truly beneficial. And I could offer people tangible practices that would really make a difference. And so, yeah, I guess this book, it's a self-help guide, let's say. Um, I give an introduction to Ayurveda, and then take people through understanding their unique dosha. And then it's all about food. So and understanding the 5 elements that we spoke about, that your dosha, and then the understanding food and from an Ayurvedic perspective. So taste is a really important factor in Ayurveda, for example, and the taste that Ayurveda sees 6 tastes and understands taste as being associated with the 5 elements. So the sweet taste, for example, is high in the elements of air and water and earth. And so taste is a way of working with the elements to help balance your body, a very important aspect. So yeah, I go into that quite deeply, and other aspects of food digestion is a huge part of Ayurvedic, I guess, treatment, or just health, the basis of health even, really. Where Western nutrition, I mean, does, of course, consider, Western nutrition does consider digestion, but for Ayurveda, digestion is the fundamental process that underlies everything. And so it's about how we can digest the food that we eat, but also how the digestive process works throughout every tissue, every cell of the body. So without optimal digestion throughout the entire system, we can't assimilate the foods that we eat. We can't incorporate them. And then what happens is that the body fails to digest some foods, and we become full of what Ayurveda calls ama, which is an undigested toxins. And these, stay in the digestive tract. They can move into the deeper tissues. And this is actually one of the major reasons that people become unwell. So when a symptom forms, for example, in the gallbladder, let's say I have gallstones, or there's some inflammation in a part of the body, and Western medicine says, okay, there's a symptom and I'm going to call that a particular disease. Ayurveda would say, well, that is that particular symptom has been developing probably for years, and it often starts with poor diet, poor lifestyle, and poor digestion. So the system is slowly breaking down, and the toxins slowly enter the system, and they get lodged in a weak tissue, which can be different for everyone depending on, our genetics or history, whatever. And that's when the symptom starts. But really, that's halfway through the illness process for Ayurveda. And so working to keep the body clean, keep the body digesting fully is really important. So I go quite deeply into digestion, cleansing the body. What else? Let me have a look. I guess eating behavior is really, it's one of my passions and something I was researching. And Ayurveda it doesn't just look at food itself, but the whole aspect of your eating patterns, mental aspects of eating, our, how we view food, how we eat, each meal. What else? I should know what's in my book, but I'm just while I've got it here. So how to develop a regular yet flexible eating routine, which is very important. I think particularly today, people struggle with that, and it needs to work in with your lifestyle. It needs to work in with your dosha, because depending on our individual dosha, there's some, kapha dosha, for example, often don't feel hungry in the morning. They have a slow, low digestion and appetite. So don't eat, you don't have to eat then. And often 2 meals are better for kapha dosha, maybe a mid-morning and an early evening, something like that. So it's really, again, working with your dosha type to, find out what's best for you, how to manage your hunger. And what else? Harmonizing with the seasons, the cycles that we talked about. And I'm, how to working with qualities. So, from a weight management perspective, how to lighten the body. And that's looking at the qualities of foods, and, to balance the dosha, and in that process to balance any, weight issues that exist as well. So to bring the body naturally back to harmony without focusing on body weight as the primary driver or issue. It's really, from an Ayurvedic perspective, an excess of kapha dosha. So let's just, help to reduce those qualities that are high, increase the qualities that are low and need to be brought back, and then just work in balance with your individual constitution. So that sort of thing. And I guess I'm also really into taking self-responsibility for our health and understanding yourself fully. So, how to really bring feeling back into the body, how to fully experience, your life and yourself, being aware, more self-aware. So those sorts of aspects as well, sort of, which work into food and eating, but also into a general approach to life.
That sounds great. No, I know taking responsibility for yourself is a big key to any practice. And I think your
Yeah.
book can bring a lot of value to everyone interested in Ayurveda out there. Is there anything else you want to add to share with the community or the women out there that you think they could take away from everything?
Goodness, I mean, there's so much, but I think that, it's really important for anyone who's seeking to move into a more sort of spiritual paradigm to take some time out every day. And we've all got busy lives, but you do need to, I'd suggest even to create a small ritual, let's say, where you can step out of your busy life, maybe, in your home, have at least a little corner or, a bench or something that's sort of a way that you can make your small altar, a little holy space where you can sit or stand every day and just really, the spiritual process, it's not about taking on more stuff. It's actually about letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, which is a constant process throughout life because, naturally, because we are all interconnected, we are so vulnerable to what's around us, and we're constantly eating foods that are full of chemicals and junk, and so the body is constantly taking on stuff, the mind's constantly taking off stuff. We've got to just keep letting go of false beliefs, letting go of what, everyone is trying to sell us and tell us. Even letting go of our self-beliefs that we hold about ourselves, our self-talk, what we tell ourselves through habit, of course, or, through childhood traumas, or not even traumas, but just, a parent who wasn't nurturing enough or didn't, wasn't generous enough with praise. And here we are as an adult not having a strong self-belief and thinking we're not good enough or we're not enough of, all of these ideas, really to take a moment every day, at least, to just let go, let the mind, let the body relax and just be. And that is where you'll find your spirituality. That's when the spiritual aspect of us can start to breathe. And that's when you'll start to perceive and become sensitive that we are more than just a physical body. And those moments are enough, really can be enough, just to take, begin us on our journey to take us each step, one step at a time. So yeah, I would suggest just to 2-5 minutes once or twice a day at a minimum, of course, and then ideally if you can take longer periods of time on weekends, and even do a retreat, those sorts of things, particularly you know, at any age and stage, but certainly, you know, in your younger years. And then as time moves on and you've got more time, perhaps, you know, down the track to do these things, you've put in the foundation, the groundwork, and then, you know, you can keep working. But it's a journey. There's no actual end. It's all just enjoy the ride. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you. That's great advice, Susie. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I really
My
appreciate it. You
pleasure.
shared so much great information. Definitely get The Art of Ayurvedic Nutrition by Susie Colles. I think everybody will enjoy that here. And once again, thank you, Susie. Really appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, as I said, a real pleasure to be here, and yeah, lovely to have met you. And yeah, all the best with Femigod. I think you're doing awesome work, and yeah, I look forward to you know, seeing what you're putting out there in the future.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Susie. Have a great day.
Okay. Yeah, you too. Okay.